I know that we can't discuss specifics around this case, but I want to start by expressing my sincere condolences to the family and friends of another life lost far too young. And myself and my team have been working with the families affected, have been working in contact with the police, and almost immediately afterwards, actually, despite the political divide, because this crosses all politics, I contacted Festus, and we had a very fruitful discussion about ways forward as well. And I thank you for inviting me on tonight. And I've listened to Sheldon, Shazam, and Adrian before, and Festus, and I think it is clear that there is a great will within Luton and across Bedfordshire to really solve this. It's not a Bedfordshire problem. For the last 10 years, knife crime has risen in every single police force in England and Wales. Sheldon's right, it's an epidemic. It's not a one-off. It's not isolated. It is an epidemic. And it is an absolute blight on entire communities and neighbourhoods. And when I was knocking doors in November 2019, it was coming up as an issue. Parents were worried about their children. Wasn't quite sure how to approach the issue, wasn't quite sure who to go to. And all the things that we've heard and all the things that we've learned, yes, it is a strategic problem, but I think we see this through the lens of crime. And actually, we should be looking to examples that they have done in Glasgow, where they took a completely different approach from this. They looked at this as a public health issue, because this isn't just about crime. A young person doesn't just start by picking up a knife. As we've heard, the life experiences, how they grow up, what they see, what's around them, it's all interlinked. It all leads to this point. And that is all down to public health. And if we take a different approach, not necessarily one focused through a life, at the crime lens, and look at examples like where in Glasgow they've taken a different approach, we can see knife crime go down. But there is no quick fix. And that is the heartbreaking thing. There is no quick fix. So when we see schemes or where we see investment, we're not going to see that pay off for the next year, 2 years. We're going to see that pay off in generations' time.
Can you tell us
this has been a generational problem.
Can you tell us what the Glasgow program is and what kind of investment that's been happening in the town?
So they managed to...
That sounds like a plan, but is that plan being introduced to Luton?
It's not being introduced to Luton, but I think it's something that places generally should be able to learn from. It was able to reduce knife crime in Glasgow by 40% to the lowest level since 1976. That is a huge, huge change. But that takes a different approach. It takes a different approach from not criminalising, not stigmatising, really investing in young people in the same way that I think Shazam talked about boxing saves lives. It's about that extracurricular activity. It's about having role models. It's about looking at tackling domestic abuse.
Are we saying that Shazam rightly mentioned some activities outside of the school? Are we saying that there is not enough of those activities in town? And if they're not enough, then what are you doing about it?
Absolutely not enough. You know, Luton's had one of the worst cuts in the last 10 years to all of our youth services. And they are cuts that have been handed down year after year from central government. And I have fought those every step of the way, and I will continue to fight them because they have serious impacts. When you see a youth centre close or a youth service go, or even a Sure Start centre go, you know that the impact that's going to have is generational. And quite often I have had arguments where people have said to me, yeah, but the Sure Start programme, it didn't change anything. Well, no. It wasn't going to change anything overnight because this is going to have to take years and years and years. What we invest in now, we won't see the fruition. We won't see the fruition for at least another 5, 6, 10 years. And we need to start at a very young age. It needs to start at a young age. Sheldon was right when he said, if you're looking at stopping the knife, it's almost too late. You need to.
Yeah, can I just come in, Sarah? First of all, I'm glad that everyone in this call has the same opinions, i.e., we've gone too far. This is a terrible situation that we're in, and that we need to reverse it. But let's look a little bit more deeper as to what we can do. Now, Sarah, obviously you're the MP for one of the MPs for Luton. You mentioned when you were knocking doors that this was I remember 2019 actually. It was a very serious incident that happened involving another young man, and it was on everyone's radar. So you said at that point you didn't know who to turn to, or
no, not me. Their parents didn't know who to turn to, because they didn't, what they didn't want to do. They didn't want to alert the police so that their child was then in a criminal system. They didn't want to alert the school because they didn't want to become in the social worker system and have their children referred. So there needs to be a much more holistic approach to it, because either you're seen as a problem or a criminal,